Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. The weight of unbearable truth and Ridge Forrester's tears and the bold and the beautiful. Normally heavy with the smell of pricey cigars and the weight of business decisions, the air in Eric Forrester's lavish office hung heavy with a new kind of gravity, a suffocating fog of revelation that seemed to drain the room's oxygen. Standing motionless was Ridge Forrester, the unwavering father figure, the giant of design whose name was a byword for power, dominance, and a certain, even haughty assurance. Words had just destroyed the meticulously crafted structure of his universe, which had been erected over decades on what he considered to be unassailable foundations: familial loyalty, the integrity of his relationships, and the innate decency of his DNA. The awful truth, which could have been told by a remorseful Steffi, an enraged Brooke, or even a finally broken Thomas, was more than simply facts. It was a seismic explosion inside his soul. The unfathomable was confirmed. His son, his eldest son, Thomas Forrester, had not just made a terrible error or given in to a moment of intense desire, but had planned a months-long campaign of psychological torture so severe and brutal that it was incomprehensible. Hope Logan, the woman he professed to love, had to go through the unspeakable pain of thinking her newborn daughter was dead because he had purposefully kept the truth about Beth Spencer's survival a secret. He had seen his own wife, Brooke, wilt under the burden of unjustified guilt. He had witnessed Liam Spencer plunge into a deeper abyss. He was already a guy familiar with great loss. In the meantime, Thomas had used Hope's sadness as a weapon to bind her to him in a hideous counterfeit of love by manipulating, lying, gaslighting, and taking advantage of her vulnerability. This was premeditated, cold, and profoundly pathological cruelty committed by his own flesh and blood. It was not impulsivity. The first effect was a frightful silence. Ridge, who could command boardrooms with a glance and whose rage could rock Forrester Creations to its core, appeared to withdraw inward. His broad shoulders, which are often held in a regal position, sagged as though the weight of the treachery were literally weighing him down. In place of the rough assurance that typically occupied his face, the color drained away, leaving behind a stark, ashen mask. Perhaps he saw the ghostly images of Hope's tear-streaked face during those agonizing months, the haunted emptiness in Liam's eyes, and Brooke's desperate pleas for someone to believe her about Thomas's instability instead of the piercing Forrester blue eyes that could flash with intimidating fury or spark with creative fire. He stared blindly at a point on the plush carpet. Only the desperate pounding of his own heart against his ribs, a desperate drumming against the oncoming emptiness, broke the heavy, oppressive silence. Then there was a tremor. It began in his hands, which were clenched so firmly that the veins stood out against the tension like cords, causing his knuckles to protrude white. Vibrating through his tense body, the vibration went up his arms. His jaw worked, muscles clenching and unclenching as though he were attempting to physically contain the tidal wave that was rising inside of him. This wave was equal parts volcanic wrath, soul-crushing guilt, and the complete destruction of parental disillusionment. He made an attempt to speak, maybe to refute it, to look for a weakness in the incriminating evidence, but all that came out was a guttural, choking sound, like a wounded animal trapped in an unavoidable trap. The restriction in his chest made it difficult for him to breathe, and his breath was faint and ragged. Afterward, the dam burst. It was a furious, visceral outburst of pain that had been building for decades, not a peaceful welling of tears. He let out a hard, ragged sob that was so primitive and raw that even he seemed shocked. Not gracefully, but as though his bones had become liquid, his body crumpled. He might have slumped forward, bracing himself against Eric's massive desk, his head buried in his hands, or he might have fallen into a nearby chair. Then, instead of coming in small streams, the tears flowed in huge, heaving torrents that ran down his grizzled cheeks, caught in his beard, and spilled carelessly into the silky suit. His tears were filled with deep shame, shame for his own blindness, his constant defenses of Thomas, his rejection of Brooke's cries for help, and his demonization of everyone who dared to criticize his son. How often had he stood here, in the CEO's office, or at home, fervently defending Thomas, accusing Liam of malice, Steffi of rivalry, and Brooke of jealousy? How many times had he shielded Thomas from punishment with his great power and influence, allowing the precise conduct that led to this heinous act? He felt the weight of his own culpability pressing down on him like a structure collapsing. These tears also represented the broken pieces of a father's hope and love. Thomas's image as a troubled but ultimately redeemable son, the young man he had mentored in design, the heir he had imagined carrying on the Forrester legacy, and the boy he had taught to sketch were all destroyed, replaced by the terrifying truth of a manipulator who was capable of such long-term, personal cruelty. Ridge had firmly adhered to the dream of a strong, cohesive Forrester family, frequently at the expense of others, but it now lay in ruins at his feet, shattered by the deeds of the very son he had tried to build it upon. The sadness was corrosive, and so was the guilt. Though Thomas, his son, had the key to her redemption, he decided to make her suffering worse. He thought of Hope, the daughter-in-law he had come to love very much, her gentle nature crushed by the thought that her child was gone. He regarded Liam as more than simply a rival. He was a young father who had lost his daughter, shattering his world and betraying his trust. The suffering he and Brooke had gone through, the charges, the splits, and the public humiliations were all brought on by Thomas's deceptions and machinations, which Ridge had frequently supported either directly or indirectly. All of them had been let down by him. By failing to recognize the darkness that was growing inside Thomas and dismissing the warning signs as the result of passion or miscommunication, he had failed as a father. By repeatedly picking his son before his wife and letting Thomas's manipulations ruin his marriage, he had failed as a husband by not believing Brooke's gut feelings. In both their personal and professional lives, he had failed as a leader by letting family dysfunction triumph over fairness and common sense. Each sob was an admission of his enormous shortcomings, and the tears were a baptism in this acid of self-realization. The unstoppable Ridge Forrester, the man who solved problems, dominated stories, and earned respect by pure willpower, was completely helpless against this reality. He was unable to escape it by design. He was unable to scare it away. He was unable to purchase a solution. He was somewhat to blame for this moral and emotional disaster, and the impotence was agonizing. A sharp, eerie contrast to the silent pictures of Forrester's past that probably watched from the walls, a dynasty seemingly collapsing under the weight of its own secret sins, was the sound of him weeping, deep, guttural, and completely devoid of his customary control. The collapse of Ridge Forrester's entire identity was the moment that went beyond the immediate tragedy of Beth's hidden existence. His sobs were the death rattle of the guy he thought he was, the unflinching patriarch, the loving, although imperfect, spouse, the protecting father. The mirror held up to Ridge's own shortcomings, reflecting decades of enabling, denial, and putting family name above basic morals, was the terrible truth that extended beyond Thomas's crimes. The outward expression of a broken ego, a lifetime of certainty turning to dust, was the weeping. With Brooke's agonizing vindication now his greatest embarrassment, how could he face her? Knowing that he had prolonged Hope and Liam's agony by defending their tormentor, how could he face them in the eye? Given how disastrously faulty his judgment was about his own family, how could he ever again be the leader of Forrester Creations? He saw the future as a barren landscape of atonement, reparations, and the excruciating process of restoring trust from zero, rather than as a rout of power and legacy. The man who entered the room was left with a hollowed-out shell, permanently marred by the awful weight of the dreadful, terrible reality, as the tears finally subsided into trembling gasps and tired quiet. It was a sight more potent than any outburst of rage to see Ridge Forrester brought to his knees, not by an opponent, but by his own son's heinous deeds and the terrible reflection of his own complicity, the broken titan, crying in the wreckage of his own creation. When Steffi's time runs out, Nick comes back. According to spoilers for June 9 to 13, 2025, on Bold and the Beautiful, Nick Marone is back and Steffi Forrester's time is up. As we always do on the day of the early edition. To prepare you for next week's action, we start with what's coming up the rest of this week. Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Luna's murderous scheme against Steffi gets more intense. Luna Nozawa's plan to kill Steffi intensifies on Wednesday, June 4, after she confronts her stepmother and Finn. In essence, they advise her to go lost. Their lives cannot include her. Luna is therefore at her wit's end. She is completely insane, so I'm not sure how much wit she had to begin with. This week, she purchases a firearm with the intention of killing Steffi. Sheila stated, "Don't do that," in response to Deacon Sharp, Sean Cannon, calling her Loony Luna, which is sort of cute, but she also understands what Luna is up to. She is aware that Bold and the Beautiful's nickname is accurate. In response to the man who sells Luna the gun, she essentially responds, "Duh, what do you think?" while aiming at a picture of Steffi. It's scary, scary stuff. Will Spencer and Electra Forrester are making out at work when Ridge Forrester interrupts them. And Ridge might become even more concerned after learning that Luna is pursuing Will. Ridge soon claims that Luna is after Steffi as well, which might be what prompts him to visit Steffi and Finn's house. He believes Steffi is being hunted by Luna. Early June 9th to 13th spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Nick returns and Steffi's time is up. The drama of Thursday, Luna's psychotic break and Sheila's warning. On Thursday, June 5th, Luna's murderous plot is well underway. Thus, Steffi's life is in jeopardy. "Do not go after Steffi," Sheila cautioned Luna, implying that her father would not pardon such behavior. And Sheila pleaded with Luna, "Just stop it, please. Simply leave town and accept their decision." But for her, Finn's decision to support Steffi over Luna was the tipping point. She was kicked as she tried to beg there. She is now furious. She is crazy and salty. "I will thus state that I believe she has serious and deadly father issues. Steffi is someone she wants to get rid of. Perhaps even wants to punish Finn for prioritizing his wife at this time. We shall see." On Thursday, Sheila shares something that shakes Deacon. She might also be terrified that Luna will murder Steffi. Since Sheila killed his two close friends, Hollis and Tom Starr, Deacon is understandably furious that she has been hanging around lunatic Luna. And after Sheila confronts her anxieties, I wonder whether Deacon will insist that Sheila, I don't know, get in touch with Finn and alert him in some way. He's not answering her calls, but perhaps he would in this instance. Friday cliffhangers, Lee Stern lecture, Bill intervenes, and Sheila asks for assistance. Sheila is contacting Poppy Nozawa, Romy Park, on Friday, June 6th, to ask for assistance with Luna. This week, we also saw Lee Finnegan, Naomi Matsuda, Poppy's sister, return. She is ensuring that Finn is taking good care of Steffi and avoiding Luna. And I do wonder if Lee will end up pursuing her insane niece once more. I see her telling Poppy that her daughter Luna had gone insane once more. Lee might give her another harsh lecture, you know. Her severe lessons are usually enjoyable to me. On Friday, Luna is attempting to portray Bill, but it is not going to go well. Therefore, it appears that Bill becomes involved or learns about Luna's scheme to murder Steffi. Additionally, he might be concerned about Will, and it may have been him who first approached her about Will. We'll discover just how Bill becomes embroiled in Luna's current actions. June 9th to 13th, Poppy's choice, Bill's remorse, and Steffi's life in peril. Then, during the week of June 9th to 13th, Steffi's time is running out because, as we all know, she will not give in and allow Luna to enter Finn's and their family's lives. She will never allow her to be around Hayes, her half-brother. Luna believes that killing her stepmother Steffi is her only option. Therefore, Steffi's life will soon be in jeopardy if Bill doesn't figure this out and stop Luna. Jackie Wood's maternity leave may be triggered by this. She is expecting her 5th child. You can kind of notice the bump now if you're still in shock. She's dressed up, but I'm not sure how she manages to pull it off. All the way from my neck to my legs, I was pregnant. In any case, wearing a large jacket would not have helped conceal my baby belly. Okay, Bill might step in and attempt to correct the mistake he did by obtaining Luna's pardon. He seems to be beginning to regret it, in my opinion. Additionally, if something were to happen to Steffi, Bill would probably blame himself because he will be so worried about her. Additionally, he will be quite distressed to learn that Luna is pursuing Will. Poppy must decide in the meanwhile. Will she put this Luna incident behind her and not try to intervene to stop her daughter from pursuing Steffi? Will Poppy pay attention to Sheila's words, or is she completely clueless about Luna? Can you really blame her? Yes, she did frame her. And Lee does something about it. She might return to seek down Poppy's evil progeny. I do believe that Lee will pursue Luna vigorously, as she has in the past, once she learns that Steffi is in danger. Recall that she took her down in order for the police to arrive and retrieve her. So let's celebrate Bold and the Beautiful. Nick's return, Brooke's rejection, and Italian jealousy. Sheila, meantime, is worried about Luna and is hoping that Deacon won't hold this against her. Additionally, I believe it will help Sheila come clean, but Deacon might view it as blood on Sheila's hands if something were to happen to Steffi. We know that Nick Marone shows up on Friday the 13th when Brooke is devastated and at her lowest point after receiving a significant rejection from Ridge. I'm interested to know what Ridge says or does to Brooke between now and then to bring her to such a low point that Nick steps in and says, "Oh, yay. There's the ideal rebound romance, you know." If you recall, Ridge skipped a crucial meeting this week to go home and have sex with Taylor. They appear to be really content. Perhaps Ridge will respond, "Home is with Taylor," the next time Brooke says, "It's time to come home." Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke wants Ridge home. Brooke tells Ridge, "I know you've been over there sleeping with your ex-wife, but I don't understand why she says, 'It's time for you to come home.' You enjoyed yourself. It just irritates me when people say, 'Now return to my bed.'" Ridge will be taken aback to learn that Nick has returned to Brooke's life. You know, Ridge was stuck by Taylor while she was by herself, pleading with him to come home. However, Ridge's viewpoint is likely to shift once he learns that Nick has his back and that he and Brooke are pursuing a second-chance romance. Nick has always made him envious. Additionally, there are now 4 persons filming in Italy. Jack Wagner, John McCook, Torsten Kay, and Catherine Kelly Lang. In June, they began filming scenes. They will premiere in July. Thus, Ridge, Nick, Brooke, and Eric will all be in Italy. They were filming. What city were they in, I'm attempting to guess? I can't recall now. Well, in a few behind-the-scenes videos I've seen, you can clearly see Ridge giving Nick the envious side eye. In another scene, Brooke is ecstatic to meet Nick. While they are surveying this coastal region, he approaches them. He also commanded a yacht belonging to the Massimo Marone business dynasty for a period, if you recall. Furthermore, he might still be at sea. Perhaps Brooke will accompany him on their journey to a happy ending. Ridge has a change of heart according to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. It was easy to see where this was going. Naturally, we're referring about Ridge Forrester since it appears like he's going to have a significant change of heart. Ridge has changed his mind. It appears that Brooke Logan and her former partner Nick Marone will reunite while in Italy, based on the most recent B&B leaks. Ridge witnesses them in action, in case you were unaware. It goes without saying that he will be quite envious of this. However, as many fans of The Bold and the Beautiful know, Ridge has been attempting to put Brooke and himself at a distance for the past few months. He insisted on assuring her that Taylor Hayes was his true love and that they had no chance of a future together. What will happen with Ridge and Brooke next? However, Ridge changes his mind as soon as he sees Brooke with another man. Ridge is obviously the type of man who desires things that are out of his reach. Given that she has Nick back, is this the type of person Brooke truly wants to live with for the rest of her life? According to teasers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge is truly going to fight, but it could be a bit too late. Or at least that's what the show's audience hopes. It's time to throw him out due to his attitude. Make it happen, someone. If not, Brooke will be confused for the rest of her life, and nobody wants to witness that. Fans of The Bold and the Beautiful will, of course, have to watch every single day to see what happens next. Finally, here is The Bold and the Beautiful recap for Thursday, June 5, 2025, Finn's boot, Luna's vow, and Deacon's discovery. Luna Nozawa is fired by John Finnegan in today's episode. The young lady is even more anxious to get rid of Steffi Forrester Finnegan as a result. Additionally, Sheila Carter Sharp keeps sharing personal information with Deacon Sharp. The logic of John Finnegan. Luna keeps pleading with Finn at the Cliff home to keep them from being torn apart by Steffi. In defense of his wife, the doctor claims that Steffi is not to blame. Finn makes it apparent that Luna's sins, including her offense against Steffi, are to blame for this. At last, Luna acknowledges that she and Sheila have been becoming closer. Steffi is taken aback. According to Luna, her grandma attempted to persuade her to leave town. All by herself, Luna pleads for a chance. Although they are unable to be together, Finn hopes that things could be different. Because of Luna's sins, there is no turning back. The physician informs his daughter that she will never fit into their lives. Steffi smirks arrogantly at Luna. That sneer is the exact one my mother-in-law wears. Not the best thing to do. Luna is told by Finn to leave town and never return. Luna leaves but promises to come back. Finn inquires about his wife's well-being after Luna departs. According to Steffi, the former intern doesn't frighten her. Luna knows Awa's hopelessness. When Luna gets back to her flat, she lashes out at Steffi. The young lady concludes that she has to get rid of her. They trade money for a pistol when a man shows up. When the man questions Luna, she says the gun is for self-defense. Luna then plays with the gun and imagines murdering Steffi. The finding of Deacon Sharp. She shares the truth about her connecting with Luna with Sheila. Sheila now understands that it was a mistake to not send Luna away right away. She could lead Luna in the right direction, the converted evil believed. But Luna has an obsession with Finn. All of Luna and Sheila's conversation is revealed to Deacon. Deacon wishes to make a police call. Check out these spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. Can Luna persuade Sheila to return to her dark side? The interjection of Ridge Forrester. Will Spencer and Electra Forrester discuss Luna over at Forrester Creations? Luna hasn't texted Will in a long time, so they believe the encounter was successful. Ridge Forrester breaks up their kiss. Electra is questioned by Ridge on her altercation with Luna. Ridge cautions Electra to keep an eye on Luna since she is dangerous. They talk about Bill Spencer's accountability. When Electra reveals that Sheila stood up for her against Luna, Ridge is taken aback. Ridge also advises her to avoid Sheila. Will tells his fierce girlfriend to avoid Luna when Ridge leaves.